a bit, the likes of Diogo, and they did play each other, these two, in the Swiss phase. I think the couch was saying it as well. It was a victory for NRaseck.
Well, here we go then, ladies and gentlemen. The Xbox final is underway here in Bucharest at FUT Champions Cup Stage 2. And one thing we can guarantee at the end of the tournament is we will have a new name on that trophy. The question is, will it be one of these two players? Or will it be the man who's made it through to the PlayStation final? Clash crazy. NRaseck will be playing in the black and yellow. It'll be Vini playing in the red and white.
And the couch was saying about that first goal and how important it's been throughout the entirety of this tournament, but I've got to say, even more so in this particular game with the semi-final we saw from Vini and how closely contested that one was and how little risks Vini was taking. If Vini can go the goal up, you know full well he is going to sit on that lead, he is going to frustrate RaseckX completely. But if RaseckX can open those floodgates early, he could get goal after goal after goal and force Vini out of his shell, which will create for quite a watch.
It certainly will, and I think NRaseck has to be full of confidence after some of the players that he's beaten so far in this tournament. With a little bit of close control dribbling there, he almost found his way towards goal. Virgil van Dijk making a tackle just at the last second, but I would say around that edge of that 18-yard box, creating opportunities, NRaseck has been the player who has impressed me the most here in Bucharest.
And he should have. He's beaten Tassari, he's beaten Tex. It's not easy to do that, especially in knockout stages. All right, you can get those victories sometimes in Swiss when players aren't playing at their best, but during those knockout phases, that's when usually people are at their height. And unfortunately for those who went up against RaseckX, he really has hit new heights in this tournament. But is he just going to be that bridesmaid yet again, or will we see him now really take this opportunity, seize the moment?
And you have to wonder if that's weighing on his mind a little bit as well, knowing that this is such a fantastic opportunity for him to become a major champion here on FIFA 20. Well, hopefully he's just concentrating on the game that's in front of him. It's been a strong start from him as well. He's had a few opportunities to get into that 18-yard boxes. R9 now manages to escape some pressure, and that's a great ball around the corner. Sambrota had to use that strength. But just kind of given away a little bit loosely there by Vini. Maybe he's the player who's feeling the nerves more.
And Vini wasn't really making too many mistakes in his semi-final, and that's one of the reasons probably why he is here. You could say that the players who got to the late stages of this tournament were those with fewer mistakes. Well, if Vini starts to crack now, right at that final hurdle, I'm sure NRaseck is going to be there waiting just to take advantage of any of them. But can RaseckX find that same attacking form that we saw against Tex? It's a little bit easier when you're going up against an opponent who also will come at you, also is very good at attacking. But Vini has very much been priding himself in his defense.
Well, here is Vini then trying to get on the front foot, and it's going to be a corner now. There will be a booking as well for Ronaldo. The first time we've really seen Vini get towards NRaseck's goal. We saw set pieces be pretty influential, to be honest with you, in some of our other finals, but a cheeky ball down the line here might create an opportunity. Hullet back into Van Dijk of all players. Swings and a miss, but Pele goes for goal. And the second time of asking, Yashin will clear. But the danger is still very much alive here. NRaseck kind of holding on after that set piece.
Vini not rushing the ball back into the box though, waiting for that pass, and does manage to let fly with Eusebio there, but Yashin showing why he is one of the strongest goalkeepers in the game at the moment. Wasn't quite top bins. Might have been able to go in if you got that precisely in the top corner, but still will be a corner now for Vini. A little bit of pressure being applied onto RaseckX. This is exactly what Vini needed in the opening stages of this game.
I'm just keeping an eye on that marker as well. He's actually going to swing this in towards that back post. Goes directly for goal, and a little trick out of the playbook there from the Brazilian, trying to catch the goalkeeper off guard. Another corner. This time from the opposite side. Cruyff tries to go short. Well read, though, by NRaseck. And after that little bit of pressure from the Brazilian, it's going to be a chance for him to kind of just get those shackles off for a moment and just take a little few seconds to breathe.
Exactly what Vini needed, though, at the start of this game, just to say to RaseckX, look, I'm not going to just allow you to dominate this game, even if you are technically the favourite, even if you do have more experience. I'm not going to let pressure get to me. But he doesn't have a goal to show for it, and that's always going to be the worrying sign.
It was a nice run in behind there from Eusebio, and it might give NRaseck an idea of what he wants to do going forward. This time it's going to be Pele who drops short. Hullet picks the ball up again now, Eusebio. Vieira tries to fire that ball into the strikers, but just doesn't work for him.
Well, Vini managing to win the ball back, and again it's that pressure mark, applying it at the right time. He does look dangerous going forward. It looks a lot different to what we saw in the semi-final. NRaseck gives the ball away again.
Ball turns onto that right foot, and he's going to get a second chance here. Too quick. Snapshots came in. Neither was able to get past the defender. Two solid blocks from the centre-back, and this has been a very interesting game in this first 40 or so minutes. Chances at both ends. Both players finding their way towards goal. And Pele with that little challenge there on the near side is going to be able to come away, but that's a really, really poor pass.
40 minutes gone, though, and not really too much to scream about from NRaseck's side. Very much has struggled to break down the back four of Vini, and sometimes even the middle four. Or at least the midfield, anyway. Vini's been able to get some very scary interceptions that I'm sure NRaseck is going to be looking at and saying, I can't allow this to happen, as Eusebio almost nips that one away. It probably would have been a foul.
Well, that's where the pressure can create space in behind. If you get that wrong, it allows that player to attack another man in behind. You could potentially drag him out of position. So NRaseck's kind of playing the waiting game a little bit with this. Trying to bait that player out, trying to wait for that last second to release the pass. But as you say, risky, but with great risks come great rewards sometimes.
One last attack perhaps, but with that going into the chest of Cruyff, I imagine this is probably going to be the half-time whistle, but okay. Looks like the referee wants to let it play, but Vini doesn't. Instead, he just puts it out himself. I have 45 minutes gone. First half in this Xbox final. No shots for NRaseck. For all we've talked about him being so good going forward and how amazing he looked with his attacking flair against Tex, he has not been able to do this.
No, struggled to break down the bank of four and those two players in front of it. But you have to say he has still had the ball in promising positions. Just hasn't been able to kind of connect the dots for that final chance to be created and finally get a strike at goal. And looking back on the other side of things, Vini has had opportunities, but again, you wouldn't really call them clear-cut opportunities. A shot from Eusebio, a couple of shots blocked. One save from that corner from Yashin, but again, not what you would describe as genuine goal-scoring opportunities.
But they're shots that we wouldn't have seen him take during his semi-final. He wasn't taking those risks. He wasn't looking for maybe a deflection or seeing what would happen from a corner if he aims at the back post. Can he catch the keeper off the line? I don't know whether he's just recognised that NRaseck is a slightly different opponent here. It's a completely different beast to what he was facing in the semi-final. And now he does need to try and take those risks and get that first goal. And not allow NRaseck into the game. Not allow NRaseck to be comfortable.
So it's going to be Vini with possession now in the first few moments of this second half. R9 drop deep. There's a little run here from Johan Cruyff. He stops up. He goes inside! Beautiful patience from Vini. And when the chance comes in the final, you have to be as cold as ice.
How many players would have hit it there? First time with Cruyff, tried to beat the goalkeeper. But to have the nerve to stop, wait, and absolutely bamboozle your opponent in an Xbox final against NRaseck is incredible. And Vini will take the lead, and now it's going to have to be Razek to answer back. Razek, who is yet to actually put a shot on target.
We talked about how important that first goal is here in FIFA 20. The further we go into a tournament, how important it can be. It can be a game-deciding goal. So now for NRaseck, having Worked so hard in this tournament and taken down so many huge opponents. He finds himself on the back foot. Is that going to bring him out of his shell? R9 gets taken down. There will be a free kick.
If you're Vini here, you just have to watch the runners.
Well, it steps over it.
Well done.
Zambrotta will get the interception, but it falls back here to Carlos. The danger not cleared. Hullet again tries to turn back, but it's the goal scorer, Johan Cruyff, now back in position to help out defensively.
Good enough, though, from Vini. Definitely knew what RaSeck was going to be trying from that free kick. Ensured that he slid in, and then he still had very much his concentration pants on as he continued to push on and make sure that no passes were going to be simple for RaSeck. And I think that's how he needs to approach the rest of this game. Don't make anything simple at any point.
RaSeck wins the ball back high up the pitch, though. Pele, the man who picks up possession for him, tries the ball roll away from the challenge of Maldini. The Italian will put it out for a throw-in on the near side. Pele now is the man with the ball in his hands. The ball now back inside into this dangerous area of the pitch. This is where Nicolas RaSeck has to kind of come up with a solution to these men behind the ball. Has to work his way towards goal. There's a drag back from Eusebio. He got half a yard there. But again, the pressure coming in. That was a fullback in position there, trying to make life as difficult as possible for Nicolas RaSeck. Here's Roberto Carlos. Again, R9 can't collect, and Maldini will now send Carlos Alberto away down this near side, and he, in turn, is going to send Eusebio on his bike.
And this is something that Gabriel struggled to do in this Xbox semi-final as well. He just couldn't get past Vini's defence. RaSeck really struggling to get behind this back four. Has to turn, has to try and recycle play as the constant pressure is being applied.
Maybe it's Patrick Vieira who can find a ball into R9!
Wow.
What a tackle from Virgil van Dijk.
And that was a controlled tackle as well. He went for that slide, did Vini. Always a risk sliding in the box, but when it's time to perfection like that, it really does pay off, and that saves an equaliser, because surely R9 would have put that one away if no one had stopped it.
Big chance then for Nicolas RaSeck. Great defending, last-ditch defending. Heroics from Virgil van Dijk. Keep this game at a one-goal lead for the Brazilian Vini, and now he goes forward again, trying to dink it over the head of Laurent Blanc, but he'll deal with that well.
Vini does look so good on the ball as well with his dribbling. He'll turn back and then double back on himself again. Really is being unpredictable on the ball and making Nicolas RaSeck think about every single little move.
Carlos has managed to get into a bit of space there. He managed to get around one player. Eusebio will pick up the pieces. Nicolas RaSeck stretching the play a little bit better here, and here's R9, but again, it seems like Paolo Maldini has a job to do here, and it's keep R9 quiet. R9 picks it up, Eusebio, Hullet's free again, R9's there as well, Patrick Vieira this time. Gets the body in the way.
The more I watch this game from Vini as well, the more I'm liking Cruyff at CAM. He's been tracking back, he's been getting involved, then also at the other end of the pitch, he's been such an influence. Really been the centre of so many of these attacks for Vini. And of course, was that goal scorer.
Here comes Vini then, 81 minutes on the clock.
Oh.
There'll be time for a couple more attacks each way before we blow for full time at the end of this first leg. As a reminder, an opportunity to play Clash Crazy. We made it through to our cross-console final, but a little mistake there has allowed R9 to pick up possession. And at the end of the game, when you're chasing, maybe not the ideal situation, but RaSeck does well to keep composure, and now he's going to release Pele down this near side. Pele attacking the fullback. Nicolas RaSeck working his way towards the inside of that 18-yard box, but again, he just can't link that final pass.
And it's not just a match-up in the cross-console final, but it's 2,000 Global Series ranking points for the victor here as well. Of course, Clash Crazy has already secured that, and judging by the points total that we saw last season, I know the points have changed ever so slightly, but around 2,000, I would say, puts you in good contention of having a possibility of getting to that E-World Cup. All you really need is one other mild performance to almost guarantee yourself there. So we probably will be seeing names like Vini, like Clash Crazy when we get to the end of this season. I mean, we're definitely going to be seeing him at playoffs just from these performances alone.
Well, here's Eusebio, and NRaseck has found space but cannot find the finish. And as the final whistle goes, you could see the anguish on the face of the German. Huge chance there, right at the death for him to tie the game up. But at the half-time stage, at the end of our first leg, it's that man on your screen, Vini, who has a 1-goal advantage.
Razek probably thought, I've spent 90 minutes trying to break this guy down. I finally get what you could argue as his clearest opportunity. And he still spanks it wide with R9. But at least he has shown he can break past that defense. He can have those shots. You think it was just too quick on the turn. R9 not quite balanced yet, hadn't quite got his feet planted. So wasn't able to strike it as sweetly as he can sometimes.
Yeah, maybe the difference there was when you wait so long for a clear-cut opportunity that you do snatch at it a little bit. When you get into that position, you take yourself back to the start of the game where Vini scored his goal, the composure that he showed in that situation, just to guarantee that he would have the best opportunity for his player to strike at goal. Might be the difference at the break here, but for NRaseck to end that game on that high note, just a little reminder that you can break down a player of the likes of Vini. I think he'll be feeling good still ahead of this second leg.
And just back to that goal, I mean, so if Vini had tried to go for that fake stop and then he was tackled, we would have been saying, well, why didn't you shoot? But he's taken a risk there. And what did we say he needs to do in the semi-finals? He needed to take risks. He didn't take enough risks, and it was a very close game, and he could have lost down to a coin flip. But now he's almost taking the initiative here. He's taking more shots. He's going for more questionable things. He is taking those risks. He's asking the questions of NRaseck. And that goal was phenomenal. So many players would have just hit it there with Cruyff rather than go for the fake stop.
It's impressive enough to do it in a Swiss stage, but when you're in a console final, to have your wits about you, just to stop up like that and work it onto the right foot of Cruyff to strike it, it's difficult to kind of put into words the intangibles that takes as a player. That's practice, that's experience, that's keeping your cool in a pressure situation, which means that we do go into this second leg with that goal being the only thing that separates the two players. NRaseck very much still in this game, but it is the Brazilian Vini with the lead.
And if you look at the last 3 games for Vini as well, those games he's played in these knockout stages, conceded 1 against Megabit, conceded 1 against Diogo, didn't concede against Gabriel. That's not good signs if you are a NRaseck fan. Because a lot of players have been struggling to get this ball past Vini's defense.
So that's going to be the task here for NRaseck. Can you break down Vini? And maybe getting Johan Cruyff into an advanced position here might be the way that he can do so. Just stretch that defense. Nice turn there from Carlos Alberto, and a little bit of a mistake there. On which button was pressed means that the ball will be almost given away. But look at R9, fight for the ball. And it's going to have to be Cruyff who comes back and does defensive work. A little bit of a scary moment there for NRaseck.
Yeah, I mean, you say a mistake, but I'm wondering whether he was actually just going for an over-the-top through ball, thought R9 was in a better position, or maybe even thought that he would be able to just bundle his way past the VVD like that. Either way, I like this Vini, the Vini that we're seeing in this console final. So much better than the Vini we saw in the console semi-final. He's taking risks. He's taking the game to NRaseck.
Great interception as well, read that so well. Vieira's going to hustle. Rude Hullet out of play there, but it will still be possession here to Vini. I know it goes back to that conversation we were having on the couch a few moments ago with Jimmy. When do you make those changes, Dan? When you are chasing the game?
Well, it's whether you see yourself as too vulnerable if you suddenly just go gung-ho and you throw everything forward with the 3-5-2. For me, personally, from what I've seen from Vini and from what I've seen in this tournament, I make those changes as soon as I go 1-0 down. I don't have a slightly attacking formation, an ultra-attacking formation, a slightly defensive formation, and an ultra-defensive formation. I have my ultra-defensive formation and my ultra-attacking formation, and I switch between the two. because so many of these games have come down to just one goal in this tournament that you cannot afford to almost waste time just playing a slightly attacking formation.
Well, here's Eusebio, R9, massive chance for ROMENIA! And his patience pays off, the Germans level here in the Xbox final.
And it was just that deadly turn with R9 as well. Maldini's had his number throughout the entire of the first leg, where RASECK just pulls out that little bit of magic when he needed it. He was patient, he didn't throw everything forward. And now it means he doesn't even have to go into that tactics screen. We go back to square one.
And just looking at the player cams here, just extreme focus on the faces of both of these players. Not much emotion in the celebration from NRaseck after that goal. Just business as usual. He knows that that's just brought him back level. That goal's not going to win him a tournament, but it's certainly going to give him a chance.
Well, RASECK needs to do something that Vini's last 4 opponents haven't done, and that's score more than 1 goal against him across 2 legs. Does Vini have a second goal in him? That's the real question.
Yeah, so difficult to switch gears again once you have spent so much time defending in the game and trying to nullify the attack of your opponent and defend the lead, to then switch to have to be a little bit more aggressive and go forward. And I kind of like what I'm seeing here from NRaseck as well. Keeping this patient approach means that that's going to start frustrating Vini here. Vini barely touched the ball in this second half. He's conceded a goal, and the longer this goes on, the more he's going to start worrying that another goal is just around the corner here for NRaseck. Here's Eusebio, little drag back, nice control dribbling here. Eusebio's going to walk towards goal. And you can see the panic in the defending now from Vini. This is a very different game from just a few moments ago.
Well, I think RASECK has noticed that throughout the majority of the first leg, whenever he received the ball with one of his players, he would try and go forward. He would try and beat that man with a skill move. He'd try and play a pass. But it wasn't really working because Vini was stepping in so quickly. So instead, RASECK is turning. He's shielding himself, he's shielding that player, and then he's walking backwards, recycling that play, playing another pass, and then he's doing exactly the same and same again until he finally finds that gap.
Well, Van Dijk's going to play the ball across the block to Eusebio, who misses the target. Massive chance there for NRaseck to take the lead.
You really wanted Eusebio to be that second man when it was Blanc that got the ball. And VVD played it across because Blanc's not going to be able to hit them as successfully as the likes of Eusebio or R9. And by the time it had got to Eusebio, I think it was just too much pressure from the defenders. It was too tight of an angle.
And now Vini's going to be striding forward. And let's see what his Eusebio can do. Hullet has to win that. And he did.
And Hullet always wins those. Arguably the most important part of all of these teams is Hullet in the midfield. It was a shame last year when we saw Hullet start to get moved into that left-back position just because of that heading meta. But even then, he was so important because he was there to do a job.
It's the one player who could deal with it. Or try and deal with it, we should say. Even with him in that fullback position, still wasn't the case that he won everything. But RASECK has completely controlled the game in the first half of this second leg. It's the first real mistake we've seen him make, to be honest, there, just giving that ball away. But for Vini, maybe an opportunity here at the end of this half.
And I just hope that Vini doesn't change his play style, in that he doesn't stop taking those risks we saw in the early stages. He doesn't get scared of the fact that RASECK was able to get that goal, able to get that equaliser. I want to see him still go for some of these fancier passes and slightly riskier balls, but as I say that, slightly sloppy one gives RASECK the final attack of this first half of the second leg of this Xbox final. It is strange to have an Xbox final without the likes of Tex, without the likes of Dasari. And it's the first Xbox final in quite some time we haven't had one of those names.
So the half-time whistle goes in the second leg. 45 minutes left. Vini with no shots at all in that first 45, with only 30-odd% possession as well. I said that NRaseck has dominated the play, and it shows in those statistics as well. But the only statistic that matters, as we always say, is that scoreline. And with 45 minutes left, it is 1 apiece on aggregate. Who's going to roll the dice?
It's almost the polar opposite of the first half that we saw in the first leg. NRaseck, who hadn't had any shots on goal. And it was Vinny who had really been the one actually taking those shots and taking the initiative. Although NRaseck still did have most possession in that first leg too. I wonder whether Vinny is going to be able to cut that possession statistic down a little bit, take the ball back off of Razek and pressure him in those situations once again where he was winning that ball high up the field. It was the likes of Cruyff coming back on defence and winning it for the rest of the team so that they could then steam forward on that counter-attack.
Speaking of steaming forward, Cruyff managed to momentarily get behind Zambrotta, but the Italian will make a strong challenge here to send it out for a corner. Now, Razek has looked dangerous from these corners, but tried something a little bit different there with a heel-to-heel. Didn't quite pay off, but you like to see that kind of creativity in those areas.
Patience again, though, from Vinny. Saw a couple of runners, could have gone for a long through ball to the right-hand side, but being a little bit sensible, saying that that risk wasn't worth it. It was a very difficult pass to make. So instead, just goes back to the defenders and looks to head down this right flank again.
What a strong run this is from Carlos Alberto, forcing Pele all the way back to track him and defend. You can just see that run ahead from Pele as well. It's something that NRaseck has looked to use to his advantage, trying to get those men in behind, those wide cams. And here is one of those players, Johan Cruyff. Tension building now in this game. NRaseck striding towards goal once more. Trying to weave a tapestry towards goal and create a masterpiece, but unfortunately for him, Ronaldo will just be caught offside.
It's almost a chess game at this point for Razek. He can only move diagonally at the moment. Needs to upgrade himself to a queen so he can move left and right, back, forward. So the diagonals just aren't quite working, aren't able to penetrate through Vinny's defence.
Linesman's flag will stay down here. Cruyff tries to play that one in early and almost kept the ball in play. And here is that pause. And I wonder if it's going to be personnel. I wonder if one of these players is just going to take a gamble here. Maybe they've recognised something. It would surprise me, I have to say, with what's on the line here and an opportunity at that cross-console final and the chance to call yourself the champion of the Xbox. However, sometimes fortune, as we've said, favours the brave.
It's actually a change to balanced, I think, there for Vinny. I mean, my Portuguese isn't the best. And I believe that he did just change it to balanced, rather than maybe something like possession he had previously. So he's looking for a couple of those players to get forward a little bit more, make a couple more runs. Whereas NRaseck, I mean, he doesn't really have to change anything at that pause because he's been the one who's dominated this game. He has had chances. He has been getting into that final third at certain areas. He is leading this leg. It certainly would be down to Vinny to really look to change something.
Lionel Messi on the pitch. You can see it there for NRaseck. Maybe there's a little bit of magic in that left foot. Messi also on the pitch here for Vinny, and it's Neymar who's striding away from the fullback. Carlos Alberto stops up. A little step over and a little ball inside as well to Lionel Messi. Manages to go for the cutback. He just found the space for it. But again, well intercepted, well positioned. Defenders for NRaseck.
I think Razek's going to be happy when he starts to see Vinny come towards him a little bit more, though, because that will leave him slightly more vulnerable at the back, and the counter-attack will be available.
Space in behind here for Lionel Messi if he can gather this, and he does so. NRaseck with 71 minutes on the clock gets inside the 18-yard box. Has to recycle, forced back by the defensive pressure of Vinny. A goal in this situation could be the goal to decide our Xbox champion here in Bucharest. R9 Ronaldo, forced out wide again by Vini.
And there's just no one else to pass to. When R9's getting the ball in those areas, everyone else has shifted too far away from him. And NRaseck's desperately tapping that RB button to bring players closer, but he's just forced to go back time and time again.
The advantage is going to be played here by the referee, and Lionel Messi is going to take advantage of that. Messi turns back inside. You wondered if he could create. It's Eusebio!
Let's go! Come on!
Nicolas RASECK has turned the game on its head. Lionel Messi, the provider. Eusebio with the finish. And is that the goal to decide our Xbox final?
And it was how he just waited and waited and waited with Messi as well. Didn't try and force that pass into the centre of the box. Didn't force a shot on the left foot of Leo Messi. Instead, he waited for Eusebio just to show enough in front of the defender where he could play it to him and where something like a drag back could just be executed, and then he could put him to the knife, put him to the sword. Doesn't matter how big the blade is, he's put him on it.
That goal at this point in the game as well is just absolutely enormous for Nicolas RASECK. He was chasing the game, but he's kept his composure, and I think a lot of that's coming down to experience, being in these situations before, going up against players of this caliber. Nicolas RASECK knows how to get the job done. The question is, can he see this out?
Well, the experience would suggest yes. Nicolas RASECK has been a man who has very much showed that he can roll with the biggest players, he can beat some of the smaller players. He just hasn't had that one tournament where everything has clicked until now. He's taken down the Giants. He's currently leading against, you could say, the underdogs of the tournament. And he's now, what, 12 minutes in-game away from a cross-console final.
And of course, waiting in that cross-console final is Clash Crazy, the Italian. But for Vini, he's got 10 minutes to score to send this to extra time. The job is simple. Here comes the Brazilian Virgil van Dijk with a great interception there for Nicolas RASECK. And now he's just going to take his time. Pressure coming in here from Vini. Has to win the ball, and Eusebio does so.
RASECK just got to be careful with some of those passes, driving forward. Otherwise, Vini is going to take full advantage of it, and all he needs is that one chance, that one slip-up, one mistake from RASECK. And Vini will be right back into this game.
Vieira, you can see Lionel Messi made a run in front of him. He decides to go back to Ruud Gullit instead. Nicolas RASECK trying to marshal the troops. Laurent Blanc gets his body across Lionel Messi. And now Mbappe can stride away.
Oh,
great dribbling there from Kylian Mbappe. Beautiful stuff from Nicolas RASECK.
RASECK's dominated possession throughout the entirety of this game, and he just needs to do more of the same for these final few moments now. No mistakes, and you're into that cross-console final. You've got those 2,000 Global Series ranking points.
Maybe there's another goal in this. Kylian Mbappe instead will force the ball out of play, and I think that's actually a goal kick. So it's going to be possession back to Vini, and this is the last chance for him to get the ball forward.
And we need to see
for
three
that
at the
last
back.
gasp equaliser.
I was going to say, we have to see three at the back at this point. He was teetering and playing around with four at the back, but probably constant pressure, three at the back, fast build-up. Everyone on stay forward. Maybe one of the CDMs not so, just because then you have that extra little link in the midfield if you do win the ball back. But he's got a goal kick here. You look at the size of some of the players on the pitch. Messi and Neymar on the wings. Eusebio, Zambrotta's currently up the top. R9 Ronaldo. They're not going to win much headers. So you need to be looking to play this one short, ensure that you actually have that pass on, and then look to quickly spread that width and get up the other side of the pitch. For Nicolas RASECK, he's got to try and stop that initial pass, or at least be very conscious of where the possibilities of that ball being played are.
And also, if that's me as well, don't be afraid to make a heavy challenge if you need to. Just break up the plate. Stop the opponent from going forward, getting into those aggressive areas of the pitches where you never know what could happen in a situation like this with 88 minutes and 41 seconds on the clock. Do what you have to do to get through to this cross-console final.
And if you are going to make a heavy challenge, do it in your opposition's half. Do it when they're trying to play that ball around. Do it early, because we saw how NRaseck got his second goal. It was actually a heavy challenge from Vini that allowed so much space for Messi to dart down that right-hand wing.
Well, Vieira's won a big header there, but Lionel Messi has won an even bigger one. The scraps were picked up by Messi. He was the creator for the second goal, and Kylian Mbappe moves down the line, sends it back, but no, a mistake here. Is there time enough for Vini to go forward? He has to go forward, and he doesn't do it. And NRaseck, from one down in this tie, has turned it around.